Hello, and welcome to AccrediTalk, where I give you a bite-sized highlight from an accreditation standard that just might apply to your healthcare organization. My name is Tom Goddard, and I'm the founder and Chief Executive Officer of Integral Healthcare Solutions, your destination for all your healthcare accreditation consulting needs. The accreditation standard I'll be covering in this video is from URAC's Specialty Pharmacy and Mail Service Pharmacy Accreditation Programs, version 4.0. The particular standard I'll be discussing for the next 2 or 3 minutes is OPIN 2-2, which has to do with how you maintain and comply with your organization's policies and procedures. This used to be Core 3, and it's got some changes from the last version. First of all, and most significantly, whereas the old version said you had to review and revise if needed and approve your policies once a year, now URAC has loosened that up and says that you've got to do that at least every 36 months. Now, URAC does say that if changes are approved as a part of that periodic review and revision process, those changes need to be approved and the revised policy needs to be distributed to staff within that 36-month period. And then finally, just like the old standard, but with slightly different language, your documentation needs to include review dates, effective dates, and approval authority. In other words, who signed off on this version of the policy and procedure. Other than that, you'll recognize this from old Core 3. But here's the most important piece of this standard, and that is you are required to comply with your own policies and procedures. What this essentially does is it transforms actually your policies into URAC standards. So if you have a URAC relevant policy, let's say that deals with patient management or the operation of your pharmacy, even if you're complying with the applicable URAC standard, if you're not complying with your policy, then that's a problem. And if you're not complying with your policy for this standard, and if you're not complying with that policy for that standard, and if you do that a third time and you're not complying with your policy for that standard over there, then URAC looks at that and says, well, that triple violation of your own policies is the equivalent of a mandatory element. And you know what that means because you're a URAC expert by now. That means that you've just violated a standard or an element that will deny you accreditation. You cannot get full accreditation if you don't get all the mandatory elements right. So even if you comply with all of the standards, if your URAC relevant policies aren't complied with by your staff, then you are at grave risk of not achieving full accreditation. So that's it for this standard for today. Thanks for joining me on AccrediTalk. For my full interpretive guide for this standard, please click on the link below this standard in the YouTube channel that you found it on. And if you want to talk with me personally about how Integral Healthcare Solutions might be able to help your organization get accredited, there's a scheduling link for that that you can click on and grab a slot on my calendar and we'll chat. Anyway, I hope to talk to you soon.